What is up, everybody? This is Break Cards, and welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Talks. Today I'm here with Jeff, who is somebody who does a lot of TTMs and actually has a podcast, which we'll talk about later in the episode, that deals a lot with TTMs. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great, thank you, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And I want to start out how I've kind of started out two of these already, and really just ask you, do you consider yourself a collector, a TTMer, overall sports fan? What spectrum do you think you fall into exactly?
Well, Ben, that's kind of the chicken and the egg question, right? What came first? Are you the collector or the sports fan? So I think you have to be kind of a sports fan to be a collector.
Very true.
I'm certainly, you start out as a sports fan. I'm a Boston guy, so I'm a huge Red Sox and Patriots and Bruins and Celtic fan. I love all the four major sports, but I don't think you can be a true collector without being a sports fan first.
Very true. Very true. And I couldn't agree with you more, because my love for sports is what got me to go down that Walmart aisle in the first place and buy a pack of cards. So that's the why I am too. And I will ask, of course, what got you into sports cards in the first place, other than, of course, your love of sports?
Well, I was fortunate enough growing up. My dad was a pharmacist, and he owned a drugstore. He had one of those kind of old-fashioned drugstores where it had a lunch counter and soda fountain, and this was back in the early 70s. And when my brother and I were little, he would bring home a box of cards to us every season. So we would always get a box of football, hockey, or baseball cards, and he really started us on the road to collecting and the love of sports. So he would get us a box of cards to start every season, and then we would go to the store with him, go down to 7-Eleven, the local 7-Eleven, and he would give us $1 to get a pack of cigarettes for him. In those days, you could go buy a pack of cigarettes, so they didn't care who. They'd sell to anyone. And we would take change and buy cards with him, my brother and I. And then we also had an ice cream man who used to drive around the neighborhood in the summer, and every day we would get a quarter or 50 cents and buy cards. So we were constantly buying cards, and it was the time when you didn't collect them for condition or for investment. You collect them because you loved them. You traded with your friends. You flipped them. You played games with them. You put them in your bicycle. It was more of just collecting cards for the fun of it. So it was kind of a different time. Before the internet, before there was a value to these things. We didn't know. We weren't trying to make investments and try to get the signature card in the pack. You just bought a pack and looked for your favorite players.
Yeah, and that's a lot of how all of us start out until we find out that there's autographs and jersey pieces, and we're chasing big names or rookies or whatever that may be. And I was going to ask if you were one of those kids, because my dad was the same way, that stuck his cards in his bike spokes to make it sound like a motorcycle.
I did.
And he goes...
we didn't even know the word rookie, honestly. Growing up, probably not until the late 70s, early 80s when the hobby exploded, and then you started looking for rookie cards.
Mm-hmm.
But early, I would say from 72, 73, when I started collecting, all the way through the 70s, there was no such thing as looking for a rookie card.
Yeah.
There was no autographs included. There were no memorabilia included. So it was kind of just, and packs cost 10 cents. And then I remember when they were up to 15 cents, and that really helped my math, because I had to figure out how many packs I could get for $1, because I used to go get 10 for $1. Yep. And then I had to figure out how many packs I could get for $1. So that was my foray into math and high finance.
Yep, and that's the way I was too as a kid. How many can I buy a blaster? Well, my allowance is $5 a week, so I got to save up a month to get a blaster and things like that growing up. And now you can't get a pack of cards in your local Walmart or Target. I know Topps this season did like $2.50, $3 packs or something like that. So it's slowly changing, and as we see products roll out, they're still just a little expensive for the average collector. But we're not here to complain about card prices and stuff. We're here to talk about...
No, I know. I don't really like the new cards per se. I don't, because I'm an autograph collector, they're not really great for autographs. I do love the Topps Heritage cards, which are fantastic for autographs, and I collect those every year. But the regular cards, I get them. I buy them every once in a while just to see what the design is, and everyone's like, wow, like see if I can get a Trout or something. But
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of the new cards, and I'm a real traditionalist. I really like Topps, so
Yeah.
I miss Topps not being the only guy in town.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I bought for my pack opening, it would be last Friday. So after this will come out the week after, but I can show you this and you'll get to see it before no one else. But I pulled
Nice.
that today. That's my first or second ever Trout I've ever pulled. So nice little Trout jersey. I was very happy about that. But I love to buy the jumbo packs. The photo variations are great, and yeah, I've always had an eye for the older tops. The only way I remember the year my parents got married is because they were married in '87, and was it Donruss or Tops? Tops that had the wood design.
That was Topps.
That
Yeah.
was Tops. So that's the way that I remember that. But we're going to talk about, of course, TTMs, and I personally know what they are because I've done them a few times. But can you explain to people who don't know what a TTM is exactly?
Yeah. Well, TTM, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's through the mail. T through T the M mail. TTM through the mail. So it's really collecting autographs through the mail, right? There's kind of four ways to get autographs. You can either do it in person, either at a card show, or at a game, or you can get them through buying packs and trying to get an autograph that way, or buy them from eBay, or you can get them through the mail, TTM. I like TTM because it only costs me two stamps, a letter and two stamps, and I have all the cards already. So it's a really cost-effective way to collect autographs. I know some people shy away from it because they can't validate or authenticate the autograph because you never know who's signing it. And I'm sure there's some autographs in my collection that probably aren't signed by the guy that said he signed it. But I would say a good majority of them, I would say 80 to 90% of my autographs that I get through the mail are authentic. I've never had them authenticated because I don't sell my autographs, but I think that's the only downside to TTM. And the best thing is waiting for the mail every day.
Yep. And that's something we all look forward to when we, pre-order something or we do a subscription box or things like that. I know I always do. And what's funny is I'm still, as a 25-year-old almost, excited to go to the mail to get it when I'm not even expecting anything. I'm like, oh, we got to get the mail. It's, it's after work. The mail's exciting now because I worked a 8-hour day or a 5-hour day or whatever it may be. And now this is apparently the highlight of my day. But yeah, I'm the same way as you are. I've done, some TTMs, not as much as you, but I remember doing some for athletes, of course, with Nolan Ryan and Michael Jordan. Both had returns. Obviously, I'm not going to authenticate either, especially not with the Jordan craze right now. If I were to do that, I'd probably do it at a card show and have it looked at by a booth. I also remember I tried to do one for, Tina Turner, because my dad met Tina Turner in college, and I wrote her a letter and sent it to her. Of course, I didn't get anything in return, but it's still, it's nice to go outside the realm of athletes and try actors, and I'm sure you've possibly tried that as well outside of athletes by chance.
I have. I'm really a baseball fan and a football fan. Those are my two primary passions. But I do a lot of actors as well. My son is not into sports at all. He's 24. He's your age, and he's in law school, and he collects Dragon Ball and Marvel and all that kind of stuff and comic books. So it's kind of a way for us to get excited about the same thing. So I try to send a lot of celebrities off that he's interested in because we have a basement and he lives in our basement and he's in law school and so we've decorated the basement with a lot of the TTMs that we've gotten back from pictures from actors and people that are in superhero legend, that kind of stuff, and comic book people, and that he's into that. So we're and I like the old TV stars, the old comedians, and that kind. I've got Dick Van Dyke and Carl Reiner and Barbara Felton from Get Smart and those kind of people.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I would like to meet some of those people and talk to them as well and pick their brain, of course. For not only their experiences but also like how do you react to fans? When would it be okay and the best time and things like that. And I'm sure that's things you've asked before as well. And we'll get into that in a moment. I do have a couple other questions that go with TTMs, one of which is, where exactly do you get your addresses? Because we can't just Google, an athlete's address. There's specific places you go to.
Right. There's kind of three primary sites that I use. I use sportscardforum.com, which is a free site, and they're actually one of my sponsors of my podcast. So I'm very loyal to them, and they're a great site to go on, and you can see who's signing in the 4 different sports, and actually in some celebrities as well. And then there's Sports Collectors Network, which is sportscollectors.net, and that's a really good site. A little more content than Sports Card Forum. There is a free section of it, but it costs about $15 a year to get involved with everything on their site, and it's a great investment. And then Star Tiger, which is a little more celebrity oriented, and that one you can go on for free for a month. And I forget how much that one costs. I haven't actually paid for that one. I've had a couple free trials, and I actually like it. The information is very good. There's a lot of people on there. People pay a little more to get on that site, so there's a lot more sharing of information. But those are kind of the 3 sites that I use.
And when we're talking about, doing a TTM, you're going to have your envelope that you're going to, of course, write their address on. And, you have to stamp and have either a sticker or stamp or return address written on it of sorts. But what else goes into that envelope besides, your card? What else goes in there?
Well, some people handwrite their requests. Mm-hmm. I don't. My handwriting is absolutely atrocious, and people can be able to read half of it. So I type everything out. I type out a letter, basically just a couple paragraphs. I don't want to give them a book to read because I know they're busy, and I just give them introduce myself. I tell them who I am, why I'm, what I'm interested in, what I'm looking for. I always try to add a little paragraph or 2 of why I'm interested in them. If I remember them as a player, an event that had it was important to me, or that I remember, if I can. I try to send it players that I'm interested in or that I'm fans of. I try not to send to somebody that I don't have no point of knowledge to. Yeah. And then I just let them know that it's for my personal collection, that I'm not going to sell it, so that they'll never see any of my stuff on eBay. I'm not a seller. I'm a collector. So I try to be honest as I can with the people that I send my requests to. So I have a letter. I put the card in a top loader, just like this. Let's see if we get a good light. Top loader. That's my return I got from Sean Watson today.
Nice. That's real nice.
Yeah. So that was the TTM return that I got today. And then I usually just send 1 or 2 cards. So I always, I don't send more than 2 cards. I never send duplicate cards. I always send cards that are duplicates for me. So if I don't get it back, I'm not heartbroken, because my return rate is between probably 60 and 70%, which I think is pretty good. There are some stuff out there that I never get back. One card, the one time I did send a card out to somebody that was my only card. I sent out the 1974 Hank Aaron card to Hank Aaron, and the one that they used the Home Run King, and I never got it back.
Oh, that's rough.
So I had to go buy that one again.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But I 95% of the time I only send a duplicate of a card that I have. So if I don't get it back, I don't get it back.
And that's smart.
It's a fun hobby. I've really met a lot of nice people in the hobby in terms of collectors. It's given me an opportunity through my podcast to talk to former athletes, to talk to some of my heroes. So it's really fun. This guy kind of two lives as a TTM collector. I was a big TTM collector back in when I was a freshman in high school, and I collected for a couple of years, and then I graduated, discovered girls, and
we got distracted.
Forgot about collecting autographs, but I kept all my cards, and I would still purchase cards all the time. But a couple of years ago, a friend of mine at work was collecting autographs, not through TTM, just collecting autographs and buying them through eBay. And I said, you know what? I have 100,000 cards. What am I going to do with these things? So my kids are interested in them. And I started sending them a few requests off to New England Patriots from the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I got them back. Steve Nelson and Steve Rogan and Stanley Morgan and those type of guys, Sam Cunningham. And I said, this is kind of cool. I was really looking forward to the mail, and then I started really getting into it. And for about a year, I was probably sending out 20 to 30 a week. So I was pretty deep into it, driving my wife crazy to get stamps and envelopes. And in the last, I would say, year, I probably do maybe 10 a week now.
Yeah. And the stamps thing is the one thing, honestly, but it's cheaper that way than buying, a pack of cards and expecting to get something great, because 2 stamps, pack of cards, one's way over the other, one's way cheaper than the other. And that's where I used to get in trouble too, because I did TTMs in my teen years, and I sound like I'm really old saying that, but my mom would yell at me to go buy my own stamps if I was going to continue to do that. And so what I would do when she got a roll of stamps is I'd sneak and I'd pull a few off every now and then just to send another TTM. And for those in the back who, aren't listening, make sure that you put in a return envelope. I don't recall if we said that enough, but I cannot shout that to the back loud enough. Do not expect your athlete to pay to ship your stuff back to you. It's ridiculous.
That's kind of second nature. I should have mentioned that. And I have a kind of interesting story about the return envelope. Mike Caldwell, who was a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers back in the 80s, he had mentioned this in an article that I had read. Those envelopes that they have the peel and stick label on them in the back? Send those for your return envelope so that the athlete doesn't have to lick it. Because especially now, Corona and the way the health is. If you're sending out a request, make sure your return envelope has the sticky thing so they don't have to lick the envelope. That's always that goes a long way.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. Not something that I personally thought about when I wrote Brett Favre in 2007, but it's something.
Yeah, I didn't think about it either. It was more of convenience that I was doing it, and then I realized, these guys don't want to be sitting there licking 50 envelopes or 20 envelopes a week, and
or taping them down and stuff falling out, or things like that. Having their secretaries lick 50 envelopes for them or something. Yeah, or the kids. The kids don't have jobs. Come over here and lick these envelopes for Dad.
Yeah. So sorry, that was my
fault. No problem.
Make sure you send a self-addressed stamped envelope, because if you don't have a stamped envelope, 95% of the time you're not going to get it back.
Mm-hmm. And who is some of your favorite, I won't just say athletes, but favorite people that you've, typed a letter to, you've done a TTM with, maybe they inscribed the card in a certain way for you, or they wrote you a letter back. I know of a lot of older players, people don't remember them as much, and getting this mail means a lot to them. So who's some people that you feel like have gone above and beyond the TTM, not just an autograph, but to send you something more?
Well, I know a lot of guys, TTM collectors ask questions, and when I first started with the New England Patriots, I had a questionnaire, and I was asking questions. Some of those guys sent back kind of cool answers, but I really got to the point where I'm just asking for the autograph. So the couple things that happen when you send a card out, right? Send the card out, they sign it, and they return it, which is great. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you send the card out, they sign another card, they don't send your card back, and then but you still get a card back.
Yeah.
Which is hard, especially for a guy if you're collecting a set. Well, and I've got a couple sets I'm working on, so every once in a while I'll send out a card, and I won't get the card back that I want for my set. So that's a little annoying, but I still get a signed card. Other guys will send one card, and they'll send like 4 cards back, and they'll send a postcard back, and they'll send a copy of their book or whatever. There's all sorts of guys that are out there that are very generous with their time, and they have a lot of cards that they don't mind sending off. Some send out personal cards. A lot of guys that are religious based will send something, a card with a religious thing on the back. Frank Tanana does that. Jeff George does that. There's a bunch of guys that do that. So I haven't really gotten anything out of the ordinary per se. It's been fun to. I'm collecting a couple sets, so I've been really working on sets, and it's been fun to connect with guys that I remembered playing as a kid, but probably wouldn't have written to them asking for an autograph. So that's really kind of cool. Some of these guys, and I'll just use the word common because it's a collector's term, not not something derogatory against how their career was. But these guys were, they're major leaguers. They were one of the top couple hundred people in their profession at their time. So they were great athletes and great players in their own right. But they weren't George Brett or on Ryan. They're commons.
Yeah.
But I love getting those guys back.
Yeah. And that is
I remember
nice.
them.
Yeah, and see, that's the way I am too. And I've seen on Twitter, like Isaiah Thomas will be like, send a card to this address if you want, an autograph or something. So I remember sending him one, and I asked him a question, was like, what is your best piece of life advice? And I just got the card back autographed. Isaiah Thomas doesn't have time to give us his wisdom. He's just got to play basketball and sign cards. So I took, it's like, it's nothing against the person writing. It's just they're busy people. They have lives. They have other things to do. They're people outside the realm of the fact that they're very talented in one aspect of their life or in their career. And then a couple years ago, I was working in a kids program, and I wrote every Major League Baseball team and asked them to send stuff because the kids were getting into baseball that I was working with. They were like fourth graders. And I asked them to send stuff. So I'll never forget, like, I got nothing for months. And then I come home one day and I have this box is like big as my table, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet wide by like a foot or two. And it was from the Angels. And I think they had just hosted the All-Star game that year. And I mean, just souvenirs and pamphlets and, autographs and just 8x10s. And I mean, I went to work that next day and went, whoosh, take it all. The only thing I kept was from Fenway. The Red Sox sent me some of their infield dirt, and I went, mine. That's mine. So I kept that.
I actually interviewed a gentleman, I don't know, maybe about a year ago. Now he collects fan packs, and I saw him. He was posting all the time, and a lot of the teams, they'll send you stuff. They'll send T-shirts and hats and schedules and cards and all that stuff, and it's kind of cool. And I sent out a few requests, and I got the Red Sox dirt as well.
Yes.
It's in my collection. So
that's just history. Think about that. The park's been around for a while, so that's something I was very excited to get. And I have a friend who is a Red Sox fan and now is a Royal fan, and I was like, I'm sorry, I want to give this to you, but I have to keep it. This is for me. So and some
back to your question, because you were asking me about players. So
yeah,
as I said, I had 2 lives as a TTM collector. So back when I was in high school, I wrote. This was probably 1980, 81. I graduated high school in 82, 83. I mean, so it was right around there. But I got Ted Williams and Stan Musial and Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax and Pete Rose and all these guys as TTM, and I got TTM returns. So it's a different time. It was a different time back then. Now, because of the internet and because of eBay, and these guys know that their cards and stuff are getting sold, and they're a little more reserved and hesitant to sign. Some guys do charge, and I'm not a guy that pays for autographs, but there are guys that charge. But like I got Deshaun Watson today. I got Harold Baines last week from the White Sox. I got Ed Too Tall Jones. I got I get a lot of guys back that were really that I'm fans with. So there are plenty of guys out there that still will sign for nothing. I recommend, if you want to get into TTM, or when your viewers want to get into TTM, go on the sites that I talked about. The address is there, all the information's there. When you go on Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter, and you see somebody posting a TTM success in any of these groups, just be courteous and be kind. Try not to ask for an address. A lot of guys don't like to give out an address because most of the time, 95% of these addresses are available in one of these sites. If you can't find it on one of the sites, then it's okay to ask. Even then, people don't like to give out addresses. They feel like they're getting bothered by it. Other TTM collectors, but the information's out there. If there's somebody you want to get an autograph from, you can find their address.
Yeah, and it's not really that difficult, honestly, because when I did it, it was like, if it's a current day athlete, send it to the stadium, don't send it to their house. Athletes don't like that, and I've seen several players post, I come home to this, and it's just this big stack of mail at my home, and it's like my home life and my playing life are different, and I leave my playing life at the stadium, my home life is at home, and they want that separation. So if you're going to do it respectfully. Current day players send it to their stadium or wherever they play. And of course, you have mentioned several times your podcast, which is entitled TTM Cast, and I can see your shirt, and I love this shirt. There it is. And go ahead and just tell me about it. How long have you been doing it? Who have you interviewed? And, I just want to know some more information about that.
Sure. So I started the podcast in January of 2019. So it's been going on for about a year and a half now. I just did my 54th episode. I have a new episode every Sunday. I interview collectors, other TTM collectors. I interview former athletes. I've interviewed Jim Cott and Bob Lilly and Jim Lomborg and Mel Stoudemire Jr. and Randy Lurch and Johnny Busick and Don Marcotte and Micah Rosioni.
I'm jealous of that one.
Yeah, so if someone is trying to promote something, if they have a book or something going on, I try to reach out to them. I also interview the editor from Sports Collectors Daily and from Sports Collectors Digest. I interviewed somebody from PSA. I've interviewed a guy that does insurance for sports collectors, so people can insure their sports collection. So anything sports related. I've interviewed Maz Adams, who was an artist who drew a bunch of cards for Topps. I have sports. I have another sports artist on next week. So from Reindeer Studios. So I kind of interview anyone that's kind of touches collecting and sports, and I've tried a couple of celebrities. I haven't had much luck getting celebrities. I did interview Gary Gulman, who was a comedian. He was in Joker movie.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got him, and so every once in a while I'll try to get somebody in entertainment. They're kind of hard to get than the sports people, but I love talking to people that are passionate about the hobby, and everyone collects something. So just because you don't collect what I collect, you can learn from them, and you learn how they get the successes, because all these guys are collectors one way or the other, and they're all collecting. 95% of them are collecting autographs. So it's great to talk to these people. As I said, my podcast is TTM Cast. You can get my podcast. I have a website. It's www.ttmcast.com. I'm also on Podbean, which is where they host my podcast, and that's ttmcast.podbean.com, podbean.com, ttmcast.podbean.com, and that is where you can find my podcast every week, and all the old podcasts are there. You can also go look on my website, find all my podcasts there. And then I'm also on everywhere you find podcasts. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Google, and if you have an Alexa device, all you have to do is say, Alexa, play TTM Cast podcast. You can hear the most recent episode of the TTM Cast show. So anywhere your podcasts are fine, that's where you can find my podcast.
And somebody's Alexa just started playing your podcast. Somewhere off in the distance, we'll hear it. I'll call it there. I just want to say I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences, your expertise, speaking about your show. I hope that some people will come over from this channel to visit, because I think it's a great product, and it's not something the community talks a lot about. It's all about the cards, and now we get to learn the experience about how you ship the cards. Don't always expect something back. be kind, be nice, be courteous, and of course use self-sealing envelopes.
That's right. So everyone that's watching, please go check my podcast out. It is TTM Cast, and you can find it at ttmcast.podbean.com, or you can find it at www.ttmcast.com. If you have any questions or want to just reach out to me, send me an email. It's ttmcast@yahoo.com. So if you can't remember anything, remember TTM Cast. TTM Cast.
And don't forget to annoy your family with TTMs as well. Thank you guys
That's
so much
right.
for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Of course, 86% of the people who view this channel are not subscribed. Mind-blowing, but we'll get around to it. We'll reach 1,000 before we know it. Thank you so much again for being on tonight and sharing your expertise. That is all from me, guys, and all from us. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and a great night. Thanks for watching.